Craving the coffee flavor you love, but without the caffeine? Kachava's got you covered with their newest coffee flavor. This all-in-one nutrition shake delivers bold, authentic flavor, crafted from premium decaffeinated Brazilian beans. With 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, and so much more. Treat yourself to the flavor and nutrition your body craves. Go to Kachava.com and use code NEWS. New customers get 15% off their first order. That's KACHAVA.com, code NEWS.
This is the Washington Times front page for Monday, May 4th. Thanks for starting your week with us. I'm George Gerbo. The war in Iran is fundamentally reshaping the Persian Gulf, with near-term shocks due to a U.S. naval blockade and the long-term impact of the United Arab Emirates leaving OPEC. Tom Howell and Mike Glenn report Iranian crude oil exports were 1.85 million barrels per day in March, but dropped by 70% to 567,000 barrels per day after the blockade took effect April 13th. Iran's also running out of storage space for its undelivered oil. It's reportedly resorting to floating storage vessels and has reportedly explored loading oil onto trains to China. As peace talks drag on, much of the focus in the United States has been on social media taunts and the faltering talks in Pakistan, which is serving as a mediator. The gridlock in the Strait of Hormuz has also affected not just oil, but other goods. U.S. Central Command officials said the Navy will deploy guided missile destroyers, aircraft, and several drones to guide international commercial ships out of the strait. About 15,000 service members are expected to be involved in the mission. Congress and President Trump have complained about fraud by immigrants and organized crime syndicates, but in many cases the fraud is being committed by government employees. Stephen Dinan reports through pandemic assistance, food stamps, Social Security checks, and tax refunds, government employees are pilfering money from taxpayers and those legitimately seeking services. That includes workers, such as those at the IRS or Social Security Administration, who exploit their inside access. It also includes state and local workers who distribute billions of dollars to provide housing, food, medical, and cash assistance. It's not just about having access. Government employees often bring inside knowledge that helps fuel the scams. California Representative Ro Khanna has turned himself into Democrats' Swiss Army knife, eager to snap open for whatever is dominating the moment inside or outside the Beltway as he mauls a 2028 presidential bid. Last week, Seth MacLachlan reports Khanna was back on Capitol Hill pressing Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on how much the war in Iran is costing taxpayers through higher food and gas prices. A day earlier, he hosted a roundtable with survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's sex crimes and urged King Charles III to acknowledge the victims in his address to Congress. Khanna even popped up on Fox and Friends to discuss his work with Kentucky Republican Representative Thomas Massie to push for the release of more Epstein files. Khanna sees himself as part of the Democratic Party's next generation of leaders. Political insiders believe he's positioning himself as an alternative to Progressive Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York. And finally, terrorism is spiking across Africa, with almost 24,000 deaths last year blamed on terrorism-related violence. Joseph Hammond reports Pentagon-backed research from the Africa Center for Strategic Studies released last month shows 23,968 terrorism-related fatalities across the continent in 2025, a 24% increase over 2024. The Sahel, a semi-arid belt between the Sahara Desert and Africa's savanna, continues to be the epicenter of terrorist violence. A group of landlocked countries on the edge of the Sahara, including Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, remains the focal point for militant activity and an area where the U.S. has not engaged in sustained combat operations. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.